Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the March 20th, 2017 episode of Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards, a podcast about absolutely nothing and yet somehow everything. Joining me tonight are our regular cast of characters, Joseph McGee and Anwar Perez. How you fellas doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing extremely well. Very excited to make it to episode 2.
Yes.
And see what kind of shenanigans we have going on tonight.
We are officially not a one-hit wonder.
Exactly. Now, whether or not we get to 3 is a different story.
Although it's funny because I joked about having 17 listeners, but I did check out the YouTube link, and we had 75 views. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and YouTube is quite frequent about getting things screwy with their algorithms and whatnot, so that 75 may have actually been, 3, or it could have been 3,000.
It could have been one person listening to it 75 times.
I will admit my mom is pretty good about hitting that refresh button, so...
I shouldn't have put it on that loop. Never mind.
Hey, but when people ask,
and
as we continue to hopefully build a following, and then one day I'll be like, it's 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. Again, if it's one person listening to it 5,000 times, I don't care. I'm going to say we have 5,000 listens.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure that's how some of these bigger podcasts started off. Just some guy sitting around in his basement, and then suddenly, hey, you know what? He's had that one moment where it caught on, and he said something where people either agreed with him or they hated him enough to keep listening to what he had to say from then on. So that's just how these things tend to work. Exactly.
I heard another analogy. It's like if you're a late night talk show host, you don't start off on the Tonight Show. You start off with an interview show that has 3 people listening.
That's right.
So we all start somewhere.
That's right. And speaking of starting somewhere, I'll go ahead and say that we'll turn the page, so to speak, in talking about the elephant in the room in regard to the professional wrestling news world here over the past week. We're in the road to WrestleMania. We've got a hot local scene here and all these other things going on, and yet people are talking about something that just can't be avoided, and that being the continued seeming degradation of one Paige in her career, or lack thereof, or whatever you want to call it right now.
That poor NXT Women's Championship belt. It's forever unclean.
I want to say that I first saw that picture yesterday. Like, I knew there was something, but I didn't get a chance to actually see it. And when I saw what everyone was talking about, all right, I'm done. Thanks.
Yeah. At that point there, it was like, there's no coming back from this, is there? It's too far gone, because, the belt design as a whole might as well just be scrapped right now. You can't do anything with that one anymore.
I guess, but you have to, let's be realistic. The idea that something similar didn't happen with any of Flair's reigns or Hogan's. Now, let's be completely honest. That's probably like the tamest thing that's happened with the belt. And if I'm right, it used to be in MMA, especially the UFC, one of the, and maybe it's wrestling. I'm not sure where I remember this from, but a lot of when they win the belt, they usually have sex with the belt that same night. So.
Wait, didn't Edge do that on TV once?
Yeah, on TV, yes. That was documented, too. Let's be...
It's funny, though. When I first saw the picture, my first thought was, oh, my God, they got to burn that belt. And I was like, no, wait a minute. There's some perv out there that's probably going to give like $20,000 for that belt now.
And that's the sad thing, is that stuff like that, when it's had an occurrence of being just, ruined as it has been, there's going to be somebody out there.
Belt.
I'm sure there's somebody out there who will.
Oh, there's someone out there.
Pay money for that kind of thing,
And it's funny too, and for those who are listening who may not be fully up to speed with all the going ons with Paige and her tryst, we'll say, with Brad Maddox and Xavier Woods, that is documented on film. Who knows who else she's been with and documented on film? I had a good friend of mine in a text exchange. She goes, well, Paige is just the 2017 version of Sunny. And when he said that, I immediately responded. I was like, wait, no. At least Sunny fucked the stars. she banged the top guys: Shawn Michaels, British Bulldog, allegedly, Bret Hart, maybe. I mean, Xavier Woods and Brad Maddox were way down on the card when that happened. It wasn't like she was doing that with John Cena, Randy Orton.
Well, we don't know that she didn't, though. We just know that these were the two that it's documented that she did do it.
Okay, I see your point. Arguably, though, and I mean, I'm not comparing anybody to Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, but arguably, if we're looking at the fact that it was those three and she was the champ, we're looking at least 2014. Am I correct? Am I right?
You were spot on. Yeah, when with her NXT Women's Championship run, this is definitely a few years old. So that's when they were all down there.
They were all down. Oh, actually, no. Or rather, one of them wasn't. One of them was like the general manager of Raw.
Maddox was the general manager of Raw around that time.
Yeah,
and he was part of one of the big storylines, in the past year or so prior to that with the whole Shield thing. So I mean, he was at least he was on Raw. He was on Raw at the time.
He may have been on Raw on Monday nights, but every other day of the week he was down at that Performance Center.
Hey man, if there are guys out in the independent scene that could, can advertise that they were on Raw getting squashed by Braun Strowman and making a killing on said showings, I'm sure that Brad Maddox being a regular is okay. Not Shawn Michaels.
And here's the thing, and don't get me wrong. I mean, more power to them. I mean, those guys did what millions of guys out there would love to do, and I'm happy for them. And I'm not knocking Brad Maddox. I'm not knocking Xavier Woods. It's more of a knock on Paige. She could have gone a little higher up the card. Is all I'm saying.
Well, it's just one of those things where in my mind, it's like, okay, you did this. That's fine. If you wanted to enjoy yourselves when you got downtime, whatever. None of these people were married or tied up in, monogamous relationships that I'm aware of at that point in time. So, whatever. They're all adults. But it's one of these things where if you never wanted it to be seen, one, why did you record it? Two, why in the name of whatever deity you want to pray to, did you bother putting it onto an iPhone or some other Apple device that's going to sync to the cloud and then become available to gosh knows who? That's the stuff that I have a problem with.
I'm glad they did. Because that's something to talk about. And all I want to know is, I haven't seen all of it. I have seen some of it. I won't lie. But I saw one. It was a picture of a guy filming Brad Maddox filming Xavier Woods and Paige. Now
see, I can get you can debunk that though. Let's be realistic. Who's to say at the end? I mean, you're trying to say there's a man on the grassy knoll over here. I'm trying to.
He's on a knoll, all right.
Well, hi-oh. I'm trying to say that I think it literally could have just been the fact that they probably had a stationary camera on a tripod. I know an actual tripod, and I know that it would. It may seem crazy to think it's that simple, but I mean, why else would you
as we continue to talk?
This isn't.
Mixed martial animals got jokes.
What can I say? But my thing is, I mean, if you're looking at it, okay, let's look at it this way. If I'm shooting something, why would I have two people shooting something if something simplistic as that when I put the stationary and then I have someone else running basically a live cam, so to speak. Say any wrestling shows like that, they had the hard cam and then they had Brad Maddox.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You got two guys doubling up on Paige. Who's to say there wasn't a third guy in the room or a fourth guy? We don't know.
And that's the thing. There are rumors that
there could have been a whole group behind, and they're just documenting. I get that. I'm just stating that I wouldn't go. It's not that big of a conspiracy to think there was a third man.
Yep. And there are rumors
that this isn't 1996 Bash at the Beach.
There are rumors that this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg in terms of this whole thing, that whoever the individual was that got a hold of this stuff, he could have goodness knows how much more of it out there somewhere. So we'll have to wait and see what happens as far as that's concerned. But, yeah. So all that having been said, I think we've spent enough time with that particular debacle. So let's go ahead and throw it over to our first topic of the week, which is going to be headed off by the one and only Mixed Marshal Anwar, who's going to talk to us about a number of free agent moves that have been going on, not only in the world of mixed martial arts, but also Ring of Honor as well. Anwar, what do you have for us?
Well, with the influx of new fighters and new contracts and new ownership within WME, who just bought the UFC last July, and now as you see past few months, like if you've seen any other company being bought out, or you worked for any company or corporation where a new buyer or new owner is in place, a lot of times it takes a while for the pieces that the new owners want in place and how they want to run the business to take shape. It takes a while for them to actually see how they want to do that and who they're going to keep, who they're not going to keep. A lot of the things they've done in the past few months, WME, have been where they've gotten rid of legacy fighters or legends that had contracts with the UFC, such as Chuck Liddell or Matt Hughes, and basically, just bought them out of their contract or let them go, fired, for lack of a better term. And, so things from that level, from a legacy standpoint, but then now they've been cutting a lot of fighters who are like top 15 fighters for the UFC. So it's not even like ranked fighters are get letting go of, which is a little weird considering the climate that the UFC is in. Granted, they're the biggest game in town. They're the biggest well-known MMA name. However, as an actual fighter, having to be locked in with a contract with Reebok and a contract with the UFC and basically losing out on all these monies they were making with their sponsorships. Now that they're cut, normally it still sucks because you're not in the UFC, but now with Bellator seemingly having bigger pockets these days, they've been able to go over there and make a name for themselves, or guys like you would think that were UFC mainstays are opting out instead of saying, you know what, I want to make more money with my sponsorships and make more what I feel is my worth.
Now I'm going to jump in and ask you a question there at that point as well. We have, like in professional wrestling, and we're going to draw a comparison there again, the big leagues, WWE, TNA,
yep.
Ring of Honor, whatever. Some guys decide, okay, well, I'm intentionally going to avoid a opportunity with them because of the fact that I can work an independent schedule and in some cases make just as much, if not more money, and enjoy a whole lot more freedoms. Is that something similar that a guy on the MMA circuit could do? Because, you hear about these smaller organizations. I see like, MMA contests all the time around the Carolinas and whatnot. Is that something that's feasible for some of these guys?
It is. It depends. I mean, a lot of it's, contract fight or, one fight contracts. You get a lot of guys that'll go to Bellator, for example, and they used to go to Strikeforce when that was its own entity outside of the UFC. They would go there because, they're a lot of times a big fish in a small pond. So the eyes were on them more. Plus, you also had opportunities that were given to you, and also I wouldn't say a lighter schedule. And I wouldn't even say the competition is any lighter than you would face in the UFC. However, it's perceived that way, but I would argue that that's not the case because you get guys going from Bellator to the UFC and they're winning championships like Eddie Alvarez are making a name for themselves, coming off a bit hype from the Bellator when they go to the UFC, like Hector Lombard or Will Brooks, middleweight and light heavyweight or lightweight, respectively. So it just depends, but they're signing guys. Bellator are taking guys at UFC saying, we don't want them, or rather, we're not sure about, like a Ryan Bader, who's a top contender for the light heavyweight division. He went on, now is going to be facing possibly another UFC expatriate in Phil Davis at their newly announced June pay-per-view at Madison Square Garden, which, from my understanding, will also be headlined by two other former UFC fighters, Chael Sonnen versus Wanderlei Silva. Whether or not that's actually a good fight is a different story. More than likely, someone will be knocked out.
It's got name value there.
Oh, exactly. And a lot of these, and that's the thing about Bellator. They're in this position, and we've talked about this before, and I know Joseph and I have always talked about this previously, is about Bellator has done really well with these freak show fights and name fights like Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock in 2016, but they're able to put people
fighters of their own of younger generation on that undercard to really give that boost visibility to these guys and say this is the next guy, you know. So there's Bellator is about to get a huge influx of guys like Lawrence Larkin, who's a top fighter for the UFC for a while. You've got guys like Nikita Krylov, who's a top 15 light heavyweight who only lost twice within the last few years, and he's won all his fights. I think 19 out of 22 fights have been via TKO, submission, or knockout. And so they're not just getting nobodies that, you know, hey, I won a couple fights. They're getting name guys, and I think, and those fighters are able to make more money in Bellator. So those are some big things to look for as far as the free agency from the UFC, where, to your point, they're going from one company to another for maybe a better monetary output. Maybe possibly on some of these guys, lesser competition in fights, but I think for the most part it may actually be on par. A name to watch out for any of this within the next year or so is Kyle Snyder, who recently just won the NCAA heavyweight division, the version of the championship for Division I collegiate wrestling. And what's notable is that he won the championship, and the guy he was facing was basically the equivalent, I don't want to say like Sami Zayn, you know, but like maybe he was Seth Rollins to like Jeff Cobb. Like, just there's a huge size difference. And the guy, he was in the heavyweight division. He weighed in at 220. The guy he was facing like 250, 260. It was just huge disparity. He won. He was the first. He's the youngest wrestler to ever win both the gold medal and the NCAA championship, as well as do it within the same. He's the only one to do it within the same year of it, and he won it within the last year. He won last year's. He won the gold medal, and then he won this year's tournament. After this, for the next year or two, he's probably go. The rumor is that he wants to go to MMA. However, like any other collegiate wrestler back in the day, and I'm sure Gerald Briscoe was there just scouting him to Hilt, but WWE, I'm sure, is going to be calling. The guy's got a good look. He's just solidly built. Plus, I mean, he looks like a legit badass. So, with the success of a guy like Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle going into the Hall of Fame, and, you know, obviously with Matt Riddle on the independent scene, who I'm sure will be at WWE soon enough, you can see a guy like Kyle Snyder making that jump as well.
Yeah, that's, their WWE is in such a recruiting mood with anything anymore, to where if a guy gets noticed for having a skill set like, you know, this guy you're describing here, he's more than likely already on their radar. Now, the question is whether or not they can entice him to say, hey, you know, come try this out, you know, because admittedly, the lifestyle of a professional wrestler is not for everybody. Some people don't like it. Some people would say, hey, I don't want to, I won't say incriminate my career, but in some way pollute it by going to do, quote unquote, that type of wrestling. You know, it'll be interesting to see what he does, though, because, like I say, there's money to be made in a lot of different arenas, and someone like him, he's already got natural athletic ability. It would just be a matter of, you know, whether or not he could pick up the chops that it takes to be a professional wrestler, or, you know, MMA as well. From what you're describing, might be just as much of an opportunity for him.
Oh, no doubt. One thing, as we talk about the wrestling aspect with Ring of Honor, these guys, a lot of guys from Ring of Honor, it's been happening for a while, obviously, with a lot of the names being involved that you see on TV now. You know, guys that came up to Ring of Honor, like a Kevin Owens or Seth Rollins, and even to an older extent, you know, Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe. A lot of names are leaving Ring of Honor now and either going to the independent scene to work maybe different kind of schedules, or also working or on their way to WWE. Word is Adam Cole is on his way to WWE. He just dropped the belt to Christopher Daniels last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, in Ring of Honor. You've got a guy like Leo Rush, who just got to Ring of Honor within the last year, I believe, and now is taking bookings outside of Ring of Honor, which usually means if he's taking bookings with competitors like Evolve, he's out of Ring of Honor. ACH is left. Donovan Dijak, and then you got War Machine apparently is on their way out as well. So,
It's funny you mentioned that, and I'm excited for all those guys to see what they can do on other platforms. But last time we recorded an episode, we were in the midst of a mass exodus from Impact Wrestling. Guys like Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Drew Galloway, Mike Bennett, Maria, Jade, were all leaving the company, and the wrestling world's like, oh, the sky is falling, shut down TNA. And, Ring of Honor here was with their own mass exodus. And I mean, granted, a lot of it's timing, contracts, and really they're not losing a lot of top guys. They're not losing anybody to the level of the Broken Hardys in Impact Wrestling. But it's just crazy how they have, a similar exodus of talent, but no one's really even batting an eye. And everybody's just talking about those guys going to WWE or doing this or doing that. And it just kind of shows you, how the average wrestling fan views those companies. But I think Ring of Honor is going to be in really good shape. They got a great core talent, and I'm just excited to see the next guy step up.
I think they'll be fine. It's Ring of Honor's had such a strong ability to continue to attract talent. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, which I read here not too long ago, is that if you look comparatively at the situation that, for example, Impact Wrestling is with their ownership being under Anthem Sports versus Ring of Honor being owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, the potential for Ring of Honor to reach out to people is significantly greater than what Impact Wrestling has right now. Sinclair Broadcasting is a huge company with a lot of opportunities and a lot of abilities to reach a whole bunch of eyes. Impact, of course, they don't have that right now. If Sinclair wanted to, they could push Ring of Honor to whoever in the world wanted to see it. But the fact that they have TV, that they have a consistent product, a company that's never really been in danger of shutting down or even getting all that slow, I think they'll continue to thrive in the future and probably won't have much of an issue attracting new talent because they're all the time having these tryout sessions and whatnot.
Their top prospect tours.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up as well. The fact that you've got a guy from the Carolinas like John Schuyler who's getting a lot of attention in that top prospect tournament. Just further proof that they're going to be right on rolling and made in the shade here for a long time to come, I believe.
Yeah, another guy active on the Carolina indie scene, Corey Hollis, has got a lot of exposure through the top prospect tournament. So.
Yep. And then last year you also had Colby Carino, who's a Carolina mainstay as well.
Oh, there might have been a little nepotism with that one. Come on.
I mean, sure.
No, I'm not saying Colby can't go, but
we
has
know
some help.
He could have some help, but at the same time, is who won last year's tournament?
Who did win last year's tournament?
I don't rather remember.
My point being, but I remember Colby Carino was in it.
Well, also I remember Colby Carino, Punisher Martinez.
Was Leo Rush or Jonathan Gresham? It was one of those.
Gresham.
I think it was Gresham. Yeah,
he was in it as well. Punisher Martinez. And the big dude, I forget his name, but I loved him. He was awesome. But yeah, you got a guy like that who... Oh, Jason Kincaid was in it, I think, too.
He was,
Who's another Carolina mainstay around this area. But again, I think... You're right. I think Ring of Honor will be okay because they're still going to be a destination. I am just concerned that where in the past when Ring of Honor would have talent leave, there's always talent ready to take that step. I'm just curious as to see who's going to be that step because... Whereas if Cole left or Kyle O'Reilly or War Machine left, you'd have someone like a Donovan Dijak who, has been just on the upward trajectory for that. Well, he's decided to leave. So who's the next guy that's around that? Dalton Castle, word is he may be leaving as well and maybe going even as far as to Japan, do the big Michael Elgin set of things where he goes to New Japan and basically reinvents himself and gets motivated. Not saying Castle isn't, but that's a guy who I would think would be like, I would do everything in my power to keep because the guy is just a great talent, great performer, and also he can be your next guy. But after that, you're just kind of figure out, and you're a holding pattern. Who's it going to be, or are you going to have Daniels and or Briscoe, Lethal, and those kind of mainstays be the top guys? You don't want to run into an issue like a TNA for a while, whereas Jeff Jarrett was the top guy all the time. Which
hey,
all I'm
that's
saying,
king of the mountain.
He can be the king of the mountain.
Jeff Jarrett's the man.
Yeah, you've got to have that. Wrestling is one of those areas where if anything has been proven true over the years, you've got to almost always have that mix of a existing talent with the ability to work with, or I should say the willingness to work with young guys. So we'll have to continue to pay attention to what happens moving forward with the world of Ring of Honor and free agency, also in the world of mixed martial arts.
And real quick, Leo Rush did win the 2016 Top Prospect Tournament.
So he wasn't in it. Okay.
I thought it was Gresham. Oh well. See,
but they're both in it though, right?
I thought they were. I thought they were at or at least one of them was at the Concord event that I think all of us were at last year.
I believe so.
They both were.
Yeah. Oh well.
Okay.
See, I can't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago, so that goes goes to show what you're getting at and asking me a question like that. So, but we're going to take our first break. We'll be back here in a few moments with more Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards.
My hands, they're strong, but my knees were
right, welcome back, everybody. Appreciate you hanging out with us on this second ever edition of Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards. Go ahead and point out that if you're enjoying the program, please give us a like here on whatever media platform you may be using to listen to our stream. And, of course, if you can subscribe, please do it. That way you'll be among the first to know whenever we've uploaded something new to this part of the program or something else on the YouTube channel or gosh knows where, for that matter. I wanted to talk a little bit now in our second segment of the night about the fact that it was recently announced that NXT, the good old WWE NXT product, will be returning to the Carolinas. This was received, I'll say, with a lot of fanfare because NXT continues to be something that people really are latched onto and that people really appreciate, even though a lot of people will say at this point in time the NXT roster is either somewhat depleted or not as interesting as it has been in the past couple of years. Of course, we've had a lot of call-ups, a lot of opportunities for guys to be brought up to the main roster and continue to develop their careers, which is fantastic. But at the same time, it is one of those things where, just as we were discussing here in the first segment with Ring of Honor continuing to restock, you just have to wonder, okay, well, who's going to be that next man up in the world of NXT? And, the other part of this that I'll mention, the shows are scheduled for the weekend of Friday, April 14th, which they'll be at the historic Spartanburg Memorial Auditorium in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And then Saturday, April 15th, they'll be at the Cabarrus Arena and Events Center in Concord, North Carolina. The interesting thing there, in talking about the roster, is, of course, that's about 2 weeks removed from WrestleMania. And, of course, whenever we get into the WrestleMania season, we're talking about the potential for roster moves. Either guys and girls, we'll go ahead and say, potentially being released. Some maybe moving around if they have a draft. It could be, shifts between Raw and SmackDown. And in this case, we could see people being brought up from NXT to one of the main rosters. You can't bring that type of thing up without talking about somebody like Shinsuke Nakamura or an Asuka or potentially a couple of guys from the Carolinas in the form of Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson. It's a pretty wide open, almost Wild West type scenario right now because we really don't know what to expect. It's a great thing. Yeah. Go ahead, Joseph.
We had the exact same thing happen last year. Their first show here at the same arena, probably a week after WrestleMania, we had the exact same situation. We're going into the show, and when I bought my tickets, I was really excited to see Sami Zayn. I was really excited to see Enzo and Cass. But in the time that they left, in the time that I bought the tickets, and by the time the show came around, WrestleMania happened, and of course we had our post-WrestleMania call-ups. So those guys that we expected, weren't there. But we were still given a tremendous show. In fact, it was the first show outside of the Orlando events, the takeover events, in Dallas, not Orlando, that we saw Nakamura. It was Nakamura's first touring show with NXT, so we were able to see that, and we still got a great show with guys like American Alpha and Dash and Dawson and the like. And I expect the same thing this year. We got Bobby Roode as a champ. I think he'll still be the champ after Takeover in Orlando. So we'll have him there, and we may not have Nakamura, but we got him last year.
We did,
and I'll be excited to see what they give us this year. I think I'm not really worried about the card. I know that there's some guys that we expect to see today, but by the time April 14th rolls around, they won't be on the show. I'm okay with that. Just don't give me Alex Riley.
I don't think they can anymore.
I don't think they are going to bother.
I know they can, but they could last year, and they did, and I'm still a little hot about that.
Between Riley and what was his name? He had the drifter, the guitar gimmick.
Elias Sampson.
Thank you, Joseph. Elias Sampson. I couldn't think of his name. I knew he had matches with Hollis, and I think it wasn't Skyler that he had a match with last year.
No, it was Skyler.
It was Skyler? I thought it was Corey Hollis.
It was Skyler here at the Cabarrus Arena.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was Hollis that he had a match with down in Charleston. That was the show.
Skyler was here in the Concord show.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was one or the other, man. Here again, good for those two guys, Skyler and Hollis, to be featured on those shows because they were pretty well mainstays at NXT for a while, and then that bird seems to have flown the coop. But be that as it may,
like an owl.
Oh, man, fuck that owl.
That's two.
That is 2 F-bombs so far for Joseph.
Am I my limit?
No, I think you've got about a limit of Baker's dozen per episode. So,
I didn't do any last show, so I'm due.
That's true. That's true.
Again, going back to this NXT show, for me personally, I'm going to the show. Anwar and I are going to be there in basically the exact same seats we sat last year,
which was awesome.
Which were awesome, but really, if you give me Bobby Roode and that glorious entrance, that's all I need.
I want to see that in person so badly because last year.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's all right.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen Bobby Roode a bunch of times live in TNA on pay-per-view and live events, but
not with that
entrance is I can't wait.
Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anwar.
I was going to say, you talking about the guys that you think you want to see there. I'll tell you one guy who I'd like to see there, just so I can say, hey, I saw him live, and he was just as awesome as I would imagine being to watch him live. It'd be Hideo Itami.
Very true. He's a name that I think people have forgotten about because he's been hurt so often.
And I know he's been cleared. He's been back at live shows and stuff, but to see him in person, I mean, just kind of one of those check off the list, say, hey, I saw Kenta, now Hideo Itami live, and you're like, holy crap, that's awesome.
I would agree with you. That would be a very cool name to see in person. And, we talk about these shows as if, not knowing what it's going to be in advance is a bad thing. I will give you a prime example of one of the shows, one of the NXT events that I went to last year. The one in Charleston, in particular, was just awesome from top to bottom, but had one of the best matches that I can really remember seeing, and it was, you see the combination of talent, you probably won't be surprised, but it was between Austin Aries and Andrade Almas. They had a flawless match. I mean, this thing, I wish I had the ability to have recorded it or whatnot, or to be able to watch it again, because it was literally perfect. And just the whole card there that night, from top to bottom, was great. The night before we were in Columbia for their show, and that one wasn't bad, but it didn't compare in any way, shape, or form to the show in Charleston, especially with that match, and then the main event with Shinsuke and Finn Balor and all these guys who were there and a part of it was just really something else. So we're going to have to see what happens here in terms of where we're going in the future, and I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to have a better show probably than what some people would speculate we'll have, because guess what? They still have Team DIY. They still have Roderick Strong. They still have Cassius Ohno. Still got a ton of talent there that is waiting to be brought up from these little. And that's something that people don't know about NXT, is that they have the primary roster, and then they have guys that you see on local little piddly live shows they only run in Florida. So those guys are waiting for an opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure we'll see some of those guys. A guy like Tino Sabatelli or all those other guys. And you're right. I mean, they still got a great roster. I mean, Roderick Strong, DIY, Cassius Ohno. I'm excited and really. I expect them to deliver. And you mentioned that match between Austin Aries and at the time he was Manny Andrade. And same thing in our show. We got that match. It was one of those matches too where it was Andre Cien Almas, Manny Andrade. When he came out, no reaction. But by the end of the match, that crowd was just going ape because he did so much good things, and I really wish that translated more to the TV product as well. But
dude's talented as hell.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just unbelievable. It's just, that was a lot of people's first exposure to him too, live, at least in our setting, and people knew obviously Austin Aries from either the Ring of Honor or TNA mostly, I'm sure, and he was just, and Aries and Almas were just on fire.
I forget what he was known as down in Mexico, but he was
La Sombra.
La Sombra. Thank you very much. But he's one of these guys who has a pedigree of being a stellar performer. I think they're always looking for that guy who might be able to bridge that gap and be a star from Latin America. Could it be him? Sure. It certainly wasn't Sin Cara. I think Kalisto, they're still trying with that one occasionally, but, they're still trying to find somebody who can be that guy. And who knows? Could be him, could be some other talent that's out there somewhere as well.
And you know who else is going to be there? Or excuse me, what else is going to be there? Regardless of whoever released TakeOver with the Women's Championship, that Forever Unclean Women's Championship will also be at the show.
I'm hoping it's a new belt by now.
What if they give it a new belt? How great would it be if they had a new belt at TakeOver for that?
Well, I'll tell you what. If it wasn't a new belt, then it will be now after those pictures came out.
So real quick, do you think that the women's championship belt on the main roster and that belt are like Eskimo sisters?
Meaning
that, Paige had both. And probably, if I'm right, didn't she have the belt? Didn't she win the belt as the women's champion?
She did. She had the Divas and the NXT women's titles at the same time at one point.
Maybe that's why they got rid of the Divas Championship. Now they
Well, it was the tramp stamp belt there, so
maybe more literal than you realize.
Oh my goodness! The women's division, I will say, is one area, and to kind of bridge what we're talking about here and bring it back to civilized conversation. And that's an area of their roster that is a little bit weak right now. I will say, because you've got Asuka and Peyton Royce and some of the others. They're capable, but they don't really have that next star, in my opinion. But they are developing people. They do have people who are talented, but they've not yet been able to have that chance to get exposure on the TV show or really anywhere other than those live shows. So the women's division is definitely I think an area of concern that might be legitimate in the future. But,
although I think with their recent round of tryouts and hirings, I think they're going to reload that pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're gonna, and I have a feeling they're gonna reload it with a top. I mean, they just did it with Heidi Lovelace and who's the other big name independent team?
Crazy Mary Dobson was part of that call.
Yeah,
as well.
She was, and Heidi Lovelace and another one though that she was working with that was a big name in an independent scene. They both went there, and then now they're I believe her name is Kimberly. There we go. And then Lo Shiari, I think is her name. I probably pronounced it wrong. From Stardom out in Japan, she was at the tryout, and the rumor is that the top two Japanese female wrestlers over there are also WWE bound. So they're definitely looking to bolster that division because for a while, and I'm sure everybody who watches Raw and enjoys watching Bayley and Sasha, Charlotte, Becky, and that on SmackDown and everything, and Alexa Bliss.
There you go. That's what I was waiting for. My girl Alexa.
but that was NXT was known for having all of that, where the main roster was like, nobody wants to see that, or no one was as big a fan of it as they were the NXT. And now it's flipped, it's reversed, but not because of lack of talent, just lack of finding those pieces that are actually going to really cement it. So. It's a work in progress, but I think they've got such an influx, and I believe Sarah Del Rey is still down there doing work with the women's division and the performance center, and you couldn't have asked for a better trainer or person to help with that transition with the new women wrestlers.
Yeah, one that I don't know will ever get an opportunity to be a part of the women's division on any of the WWE products, but I would love to see her. Just because of the fact that I've been a fan of hers forever, is Lufisto. I think she's one of those talents that's probably, unfortunately, going to be passed over. But we'll have to wait and see what happens because tomorrow is always right around the corner. And as we've discussed, they're constantly, WWE that is, looking to recruit new talent. And you never know. She could still get an opportunity to be a part of one of their rosters. And there's lots of other really talented female athletes out there as well right now. So hopefully, as you guys say, they'll be able to reload fairly quickly here. But at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and head to our second break of the evening. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us once again for Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards. Stay tuned. If you're interested in a getaway to Central Florida but don't know where to start, you should contact Magical Wishes Travel with the Truesdales to help you plan a truly unforgettable vacation. Magical Wishes Travel with the Truesdales can handle booking all aspects of your trip, from hotel rooms to theme park tickets and stroller rentals to dining reservations. Magical Wishes Travel with the Truesdales can take the stress out of planning your next vacation. Contact them today via their Facebook page, www.facebook.com/MWT-Truesdales. That's facebook.com/MWT-Truesdales. Welcome back. We are in our third segment now of the March 20th, 2017 edition of Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards. And for this third and final segment of the show, we're going to talk to Mr. Joseph McGee about some things that are going on in the world of sports. You might have heard of a little thing called March Madness and the sports betting phenomenon that goes around it. And also, he's going to...
Well, I cared a lot more about March Madness until yesterday. That's when my beloved Arkansas Razorbacks got eliminated.
Oh.
No, with a little help from the officials. We didn't do ourselves any favors, not scoring in the last 3 minutes, but
yeah, there is that.
It is March Madness. It's one of the greatest times of the year if you're a sports fan, and especially for me, a guy who's patiently waiting for football season to start. This is definitely something that keeps me occupied. One of the things I love about March Madness, though, is the betting that goes along with it.
Now, you're a big bettor, and you're an avid casino goer as well, isn't that right?
I am. I love going to casinos. I love betting. I love gambling. I love sports betting. But I'll tell you who really loves sports betting. There's this guy that's a casino owner out in Vegas. Let me pull up his name real quick. I believe his name is Derek Stevens. Now, this guy's got some cojones. He dropped $11,000 per game on each of the 32 first-round games of the NCAA tournament, betting against the spread. Each game. He bet over $350,000 on that first round.
Good night.
Although he did not do particularly well. He finished with an overall record of 10-19-3. So he didn't lose his house, but he definitely took a little bath. And I definitely respect a guy who has the balls to make a bet like that and to really put everything out there. I mean, granted, to him, $365K, it's probably like spitting in the ocean. You know, that should probably just be like me betting $20 on a game or $50. But I mean, that's still pretty incredible to see him go out there and try to run the table like that in that first round. But the thing I love about March Madness is, man, anything goes, and they call it March Madness for a reason.
Absolutely. You know, and then you were talking about your beloved hogs there, as I'll refer to them. I think we've had some surprises here, and probably one of the bigger ones has been thanks to my beloved South Carolina Gamecocks showing the door to Coach K and the Dukies. What did you think about that show down there last night?
Well, I mean, as an avid Duke hater, I loved it, and I'm sure the University of South Carolina definitely gained a few 100,000 new fans, at least for the next couple weeks, because they knocked out Duke. So
they're all Tar Heel fans.
Oh, they're just, Duke is like the ultimate villain in college basketball. So anytime they get knocked out, there's people rejoice, not just Tar Heel fans.
I'm just upset they lost because I had them going all the way. So.
Duke was a popular pick to win them all, to win it all. My money now is on UCLA. I think UCLA, really whoever gets out of that South region between the North Carolina Tar Heels, Kentucky Wildcats, or UCLA Bruins, I think they're the team that's going to win it all. But my money right now is on UCLA. But we'll see what happens. There's still, we're down to 16. A lot more basketball still to play. It's exciting. Really, for anything non-football related, this is definitely the most exciting time of the year in sports. So I love
that was what you mentioned, that part of the bracket where UNC, UCLA, and some of their teams all wound up being. I made the joke, of course, here everything's on this show going to wind up being tied back to wrestling in some way, shape, or form. But it seemed to me,
and here I'm trying to branch out, bring it back in.
We'll talk about betting on WrestleMania here in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. But in looking at the way that bracket sort of has evolved, you wound up with Kentucky, Kansas, UNC, UCLA all on one side of the board, more or less there. So it's like, okay, instead of spreading these guys around to where they could potentially encounter one another in, a later stage, they're all going to have to fight it out, pretty much in the middle of the entire bracket here. And just in terms of, we're talking about fantasy booking here, of course, it might have been good for them to maybe stagger some of those contests throughout and looking at potential matchups. Or am I alone in that thought there?
No, I think they do put a lot of thought into that. But, at the same time, when you get to this level of competition, it's a 68-team field, but, the top, 30 teams are all really good. You got your Winthrops that get in, and you got your smaller schools. But really, even teams like, and I'll use our schools, Arkansas and South Carolina. They're not among the basketball elite, but they're still dangerous teams that could do some damage, and really anything can happen. So I think the cream will still rise to the top. You'd have to play them at some point anyway. And I do think they are thoughtful in their bracket, in their seeding. Which I think there's a reason like Duke was on one side, Carolina was on the other, so they could potentially meet in the finals. But at the same time, there's still a lot. It's still a lot of good teams, and you got to spread them around somehow. So I'm sure they were thoughtful.
Would that have been the fourth matchup that they potentially would have had? UNC
this year it would have been, yes.
That's crazy to think of them having 4 games in one season, because they always are going to have one at home, one away in the division there in the ACC.
And then potentially one in the ACC tournament. And if they would have played again, it would have been a barn burner.
Yeah, and they continue to have one of the most historic rivalries in any sport, period. Not just, I'd say, college athletics.
Yeah, but Duke choked on a cock, and what? It's the South Carolina Gamecocks.
That's true.
Let's get your minds out of the gutter. We ain't talking about Paige anymore.
Yeah.
I'm still really excited to see kind of what's going to go on for the rest of the this next few weeks over the basketball season.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited about is this weekend. Got a little thing called PWX here in Shelby, North Carolina, just a little bit outside of Charlotte. I'm really excited about this show. For a lot of reasons, but mainly because they're bringing in the American Nightmare, one Cody Rhodes. He's facing John Schuyler at this show. So I'm really excited about this show. I had Anwar and I, and actually Redbeard, you were there too. We had a chance to go to another show at the same venue a couple months ago. It's a cool venue.
It's a very cool venue.
It's a traditional wrestling venue in the Carolinas, one that hasn't been used probably in 30 years. But 30 years ago, it was the building where the Rock and Roll Express won their very first NWA World Tag Team Championship.
Indeed.
And you would have thought it was 30 years ago the night we were out there just a couple months ago.
Oh, agreed. The Rock and Roll Express, man. Rock and roll never dies, at least not in Shelby, North Carolina.
Exactly.
Still running wild.
But, man, I'm excited about this show. I haven't been to a PWX show in about 6 months. It was last September when they brought
Matt
in
Riddle.
Was when we went to the show, and Anwar, Redbeard, and I'll tell you what, our absence is noticed. As I was talking to the PWX owner a while back, he had mentioned that he hadn't seen me at some shows in a while, and I said, well, you hadn't really given me any reason to come out.
Oops.
That's actually not what I said, and that's not the reason why. Just, again, newlywed. Since the last PWX show, I have gotten married. I've got a lot going on, working a lot, so I just haven't had a chance to get back to a PWX show, but I'm really excited.
And you got to pay off that massive wedding that you had there. That
I know.
Just amazing joint. I know we've talked about it before, but that was just a crazy, impressive wedding you guys had there.
But speaking of impressive, too, this PWX lineup, like I said, they're bringing in Cody Rhodes. They're bringing in Big Mike, Michael Elgin. He's taking on Anthony Henry. They're bringing in Jeff Cobb, who's a guy I'm not really familiar with, but I know he's got a name to himself out there. He's worked PWG and really all over.
Have you not really watched him?
I have not had any exposure to him at all.
Dude, I think, and he's matched up with James Drake,
who is probably my new favorite wrestler.
Who is a phenomenal talent. The man. He is the man. However, this is the kind of match where it's like two big dudes just going to beat the crap out of each other.
Yes.
But Cobb is very much, and he's bigger than him, so I don't take this as a slight or over. I don't want to oversell it, but he reminds me the way he moves of like a giant Samoan version of Scott Steiner.
Yes.
Because he can do a lot of the high-flying things, some of it, but when he does it, it just like, you don't expect it. It's like when Steiner would bust out the Frankensteiner back in the day, you were like, whoa, that's no way. And Cobb does just phenomenal stuff, and he's awesome. He's awesome to watch.
And if you're not familiar with Cobb, but you do watch wrestling, chances are you might have seen him on a little program called Lucha Underground, because he is the man otherwise known as the Monster Matanza,
Yes.
who, of course, is the brother of Dario Cueto on Lucha Underground program.
Well, full disclosure, I've only watched like the first couple episodes of Lucha Underground.
What?
But now that the first two seasons are on Netflix, I'm totally getting caught up on all of it.
Wait, you never watched
So-
the first season?
No, I watched like maybe 3 episodes.
Dude, the first season is where it's at. The second season's good too, but the first season is where you get to see. I would arguably say that that's where you get to see the beginning stages of Pentagon Jr. Basically coming out seemingly from someone who doesn't watch Lucha Libre, just being this awesome wrestler who is just a very Mexican Lucha Libre-esque Stone Cold in the sense of the guy who's supposed to be the bad guy, quote unquote, but it just beats the crap out of everybody and everybody loves it. And then to where he's at now, where he's just a recognized star everywhere he goes.
That is a great way of putting it, calling him a Lucha Libre Stone Cold, because that's pretty much where he's at right now. And I know we're getting off track with the PWX thing, but I'll bring
killing me.
I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to make a comparison that and you hadn't watched it, so how are you not?
Well, and I did follow Lucha Underground. I kind of know what's going on. I just never had time. There's only so many hours in the week, and I got a lot going on.
All right, well,
but not to take any of the shine away from PWX, because that's the guy showed this weekend.
Let's get back to their card, though. Joseph,
a couple of matches I wanted to highlight, and I'm not going to go over every match on the card, but a couple of the matches I want to highlight. You got Tracer X and Darius Lockhart. That's going to be phenomenal. That sleeper for match of the night, and then another with a couple notable indie guys. Martin Stone taking on David Starr.
That should be fun.
Should be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited about the show.
Well, you want to talk about the Elijah? What's his dude's name? What's the guy? The
Elijah Evans the fourth.
Yes, you want to talk about his?
Well, he's in a 6-man tag, and they're going against the Ugly Ducklings.
I hope he loses.
Love the Ducks, and like you, I'm totally cool with if Elijah fourth loses. So yeah, I think that'll be. I mean, again, every match is going to be a good match.
Well, an interesting possibility with that scenario there. I was at a show this past weekend where Ethan Case was there. He was not wrestling, but he was there in a promotional capacity. Of course, anybody who knows anything about Ethan Case and Elijah Evans IV knows that they, at one point in time, were worst case scenario, and I think there's still some embers burning in that particular feud.
They should put it out.
Oh.
Let's be realistic. That feud, the quote unquote feud, the match that should have ended it was like a year too late.
It did go on a lot. I mean, it seemed to go on.
It would stop
and go. And I think a lot of that was like, oh, we don't have this guy this month. Oh, we have him this month. All right, let's further the storyline. But one more thing I want to talk about, and I know Anwar is going to love this.
Oh,
and he may have been used on PWX before, but this will be not my first time seeing him wrestle, but my first time seeing him on PWX is the indie darling of the Carolinas, probably the most over guy in all of the Carolinas behind the Ugly Ducklings, and that's one, White Mike.
Yeah, buddy. Is he wrestling on this show?
He is wrestling Jason Cade, and love me some White Mike. That dude is just so damn entertaining. I just love watching that guy. I mean, the truth be told, I don't remember any of his matches. I can't tell you if he won any matches or he lost any matches I've seen him in, but I tell you what, every time I've seen him, I've laughed my ass off. I've enjoyed every second of it. Just puts a smile on my face, and I love watching that guy. And I'm really excited to see him at PWX.
And for some here, and some listening that may not know the name or anything, if you watch the Total Nonstop Deletion episode of TNA, where they basically did the whole Broken Hardy gimmick with the entire Impact roster, and they did that tag team Armageddon Apocalypse thing in Cameron in December. He was there, and he was a part of the tag team when once confronted with Abyss and Crazy Steve ran away screaming like a little girl, and I died laughing so hard because it was that is exactly what I would have done. That's exactly what anyone would do in that scenario.
The very first time I ever saw White Mike, I saw this guy, and I was just like, oh, who is this clown? And he was in a battle royal. He was in a 20-man battle royal, and he did that. He ran around screaming. Anytime someone touched him, he would scream this high-pitched scream that if you look at him, you would not think that kind of scream would come out of a man like that. And it was just so damn funny. And by the end of the Battle Royal, I was rooting so hard for him to win. And he didn't win, but damn, he was just so fun to watch. And every time I see him on a show now, I just get really excited. So I'm going to be really excited to see White Mike live in PWX. Maybe get a photo op. Maybe I'll dust off one of my NWA T-shirts and get a White Mike photo op. You never know.
No, we're not talking about National Wrestling Alliance NWA here either.
You haven't.
We are not.
But regardless of Joseph and his collection of nostalgic hip-hop T-shirts from the mid to late 80s, it does sound like we've got a lot to look forward to with Premier Wrestling Experience Ode to Tradition coming this Sunday from the Shelby Recreation Center up in Shelby, North Carolina. We're going to head to our final commercial break here of the evening, and then we'll be back to talk about unpopular opinions as we close off this episode of Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards. Appreciate you guys listening. Stay tuned.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Are you looking for custom T-shirts with a quick turnaround? Then look no further than SOS Custom Tees, your source for custom T-shirts, vinyl decals, tumblers, and more. Contact them today via their website, www.soscustomtees.com, and be sure to check out all the designs that are available in their online store. And we're back. Our final segment of the show, as we like to cap things off here on Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards, is to share an unpopular opinion amongst the group here. But tonight, we're not going to go around the table. We're going to focus on one because of the fact that Joseph, our dear brother here, has an interesting story to tell about an experience he had with the Price is Right Live. Joseph, take it away.
I don't want to derail our unpopular opinion segment, but I tell you what, some people that listen to this might have an unpopular opinion on my story. But I had the pleasure. So The Price is Right. We all know The Price is Right. It's been on TV for over 40 years. It's a staple of daytime television. One of the greatest game shows of all time. Not the greatest, because that's Jeopardy. But Price is Right is up there. And so they now have a touring show where they tour the country, playing the Price is Right games, giving away the prizes, and it's a lot of fun. And their latest stop was in Cherokee, North Carolina, at the Harrah's Casino. And it's just a short drive from Charlotte, a couple hours. So we decided to make the trip, me and my wife, and because we were like, "What the hell? We're gonna have a lot of fun." And worst case scenario, I'm at a casino. I can do some gambling. I can play some poker. I can have some fun. But I'm gonna tell you what, we went to this Price is Right live show. And the people watching was better than any wrestling show you could ever go to. It was better than any trip to Walmart. It was amazing. And the funny thing is, the people that were there, they thought that this was the real Price is Right. Some people thought that they were auditioning for a chance to go to L.A. Some people thought Drew Carey was there. He had the people with their homemade Price is Right T-shirts. Like, come on down, pick me.
I'm going to stop you right there. this is something that I would have had as a selling point to go to this show, and I won't say that they mislead people, but Drew Carey was not on this show. He was not on. Well, I don't think he's ever been on one of these live shows other than the ones that they tape in L.A.
But they never advertised them. I mean, granted, they never didn't advertise them as not being there.
That's the thing.
So if people make that assumption, that's on them. I knew better. This is Cherokee, North Carolina, a little mountain town, part of the Cherokee Indian Reservation, and the biggest draw is they have a casino. And I've been to that casino plenty of times, so I know the type of shows they draw. Although they are getting a lot better, including Chris Rock performing there in May, which I'm really excited about. But I don't want to derail from The Price is Right. So I knew what I was getting into with this Price is Right touring show. And we didn't get Drew Carey as a host, although we did have a notable name as a host. It was one Mark Wahlberg.
Wahlberg?
It was a Mark Wahlberg. It was not the movie star Mark Wahlberg. No. It was the host of PBS's Antiques Roadshow, Mark Wahlberg.
Which is a very good show to host when doing The Price is Right on a traveling circuit.
And I'll tell you what, though. I mean, not to really shit on the guy. I mean, I'd come up with a different stage name. He did a great job. He was a lot of fun. He was engaging. He had a quick wit. And it was a lot of fun. And they gave away real prizes. They gave away cash. It wasn't the $10,000 or the new Mustang that you would win on the real Price is Right, but it was still good, prizes, nice TVs, washer dryer, $500 cash, and he did a great job. I had a lot of fun. I think some of the people just should have gone in with some different expectations, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that people watching, I'll tell you what, when you go to wrestling shows, people who to them, it's still real to them, and they really get into it, and you think they're about to jump the rail to get the heel because damn it, they just don't like that guy. And I felt a lot of that in that Price is Right crowd because they were like, they're gonna pick me, and hell, some of the people probably thought Bob Barker was going to be there, and while Bob Barker's probably at a casino somewhere, it ain't in Cherokee, North Carolina. So, but man, it was just an experience to say the least. A lot of fun.
You talk about people watching there. That's one of the things that I think my wife, whenever we've been to shows together, that's always been one of her more favorite pastimes than anything. And fortunately for her, I've taken her to some places where she's had a lot of opportunities to watch some pretty odd people. And the Tremont Music Hall days of PWX, and back when Old School Championship Wrestling was running this little dive bar, it's been plenty of opportunities to watch some pretty odd people there.
I don't know. I would think that, and Joseph can attest to this, and I don't know, Redbeard, if you went to these shows, but anytime I'm on Highway 29 in Concord and I pass El Patron, the Mexican restaurant there, and I remember that I saw Kevin Owens headline there against Steve Corino, and I believe Kevin Owens wrestled there more than once. I think, Joseph, you said you saw him at a Pro Wrestling Evo show there.
I saw him wrestle Marcellus King.
There's video documentation of that too, which if Joseph's ever so inclined, he needs to share. If I'm right, that's the same show where Owens threatened to throw your phone.
He did. I was recording a little video of the match. It was a really good match, and Kevin Owens grabbed my phone and says, "You can't film this," and cut it off. So I do have that film. Definitely did not delete that video. But I loved El Patron because it was part Mexican restaurant, part nightclub. So they would have the wrestling set up in the nightclub section, but the restaurant was still operating. I remember one night, and it might have been the Kevin Owens, Steve Corino show, where they were doing karaoke in the restaurant and wrestling in the nightclub section, and it was just the sounds and everything was just it was an experience, and it was something I'll never forget, and I love that little venue.
Yep, I think we've all been to some pretty craptastic places over the years in pursuit of the passion that is professional wrestling.
I saw $5 wrestling there.
Any venue where I can get an enchilada, Corona, watching wrestling is all right by me.
There you go. Well, all that having been said, we do want to thank everybody who's joined us for this second episode of Rebels, Rogues, and Redbeards. We appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with us. This is the second episode of our program here, and we're looking forward to continuing this on well into the future as we're developing this show and continuing to grow into our little niche that is whatever it's going to wind up being. So I want to thank Joseph and Anwar for joining me here this evening. For all of you listening at home or wherever you might be, please remember to like, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this program. And we will see you down the road.